welcome back to my channel. Today I have a collection of books for you all about story elements. Each one of these books makes a great mentor text for teaching about story elements in your classroom. As story elements really are that foundation of our true comprehension work with students. Once they can really retell the components of the story, they'll be able to answer those higher level thinking. And as we all know, those story elements include the setting, characters, problem and solution, as well as the main events in the story. And the best way to really teach story elements is through read-alouds. You knew that was coming. If you've been here for a while, you know that I love using picture books for teaching all aspects of the curriculum. So this week, we are diving into my favorite picture books to use for teaching story elements in the classroom. Let's jump into the books. The first book that I have is Ruby Finds a Worry by Tom Percival. And this whole series by Tom Percival is really great. A lot of them can be used for teaching social emotional skills as well. But today we're going to be talking about how to use it for story elements. In this story, Ruby is a happy, curious, imaginative girl. And then one day she finds something unexpected, a worry. It's not such a big issue at first, this worry. It's just kind of small. But each day this worry gets bigger and bigger and bigger, until eventually this worry is so enormous that it's all she can think about. But when she befriends a young boy, she realizes that everybody has worries. And not only that, there's a great way to get rid of them too, by talking with others. So as you can see, this story has a few main characters. It has that problem. The problem is her worry. And the solution she discovers at the end is to talk about those worries. So a great book to share with your students all about story elements. This next one is a favorite of mine, Lily's Purple Plastic Purse by Kevin Hanks. And I will say that almost all of his books are good for teaching story elements to your students. Almost every one of his books has those main characters, has a prominent setting, a clear problem and solution, and the main events that go on throughout the story. So we'll focus on this one today. In this story, Lily has a new purple plastic purse, and she is so proud of this purse, and she just wants to tell everybody about it. So she brings the purse to school, and her teacher tells her, "You can share it later, but right now you need to put it away." Well, Lily, she tries. She really tries, but she can't. She's just so excited, and she takes it out to show people, and her teacher puts it away until the end of the day. She is so mad, and eventually, and the teacher does return it to her with a note that just says tomorrow's going to be a better day. And one thing I really like about this story is how strong of a reaction Lily has to the problem. She gets so mad at her teacher and so upset. And then when there's that solution at the end, how her emotions change, that anger dissipates, and she understands what the problem was and the solution to it. So this is a great book for teaching students about story elements. This next one is one that I had not read in a really long time, Ira Sleeps Over by Bernard Weber. This is such a charming book about a child's first sleepover experience and how there's that excitement, but there is also some nervousness as well. Ira is thrilled about his first sleepover at his friend Reggie's house, but then his sister makes him question bringing his favorite teddy bear. He sleeps with this teddy bear every night, but what if Reggie makes fun of him for it? Will Reggie laugh at him? Will Ira be able to sleep without it? There's a lot of back and forth in this book that your students will not only find silly, but will be able to relate to as well. Again, those clear story elements are present in this book. We have Ira and Reggie as the two main characters. The story takes place starting at Ira's house, but then at the sleepover at Reggie's house. The problem is Ira wants to bring his teddy bear, but he's not sure if he's comfortable with that. And then there's a clear solution at the end. Ira Sleeps Over is another great book for teaching story elements to your students. This next one is another favorite of mine, Enemy Pie by Derek Munson is another great book for discussing story elements with your students. It is about to be the perfect summer. That is until Jeremy Ross moves into the neighborhood and becomes enemy number 1. Luckily, Dad has a solution for dealing with enemies, and that is enemy pie. So Dad agrees to make enemy pie, but he tells his son that he must first spend an entire day playing with the enemy. That's how the pie works. The two boys spend the whole day playing together and actually having a lot of fun. And by the time it comes time to eat that enemy pie, he doesn't want his new friend, his former enemy, to eat it. But it turns out that enemy pie really wasn't the problem all along, and that the solution was to spend time and have fun with your enemy. Again, clear characters: the young boy, his enemy, Jeremy Ross, and his dad. The story takes place, the setting is outside at the boys' houses during the summertime. The problem is that he has this enemy and he has to spend the whole day with him. But we learn that the solution is not enemy pie, but it is spending time and getting to know somebody else, and you might just find a friend along the way. Not only is this a great book for story elements, but about making friends and understanding others as well. Next, we have Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. In the story, Max dresses in his wolf suit and is wreaking havoc in his house, and so his mother sends him to his room. While he's in there, Max sets sail and lands on an island inhabited by the wild things. They name him the king and they start a wild rumpus with him. Then Max starts to smell some wonderful things to eat from far across the world. Another great book to use with your students to talk about story elements. Another book that you can use is In Our Mother's House by Patricia Polacco. In this book, Marmee, Mima, and the kids are just like any other family on the block. In their beautiful home, they cook together, they dance together, they laugh together, but some of the other families don't accept them. How can a family have no dad and 2 moms? But their house is full of love. They teach their children that different doesn't mean wrong, and that no matter how many moms or dads they have, they are everything that a family is meant to be. This is really a true Patricia Polacco story, full of love, of family, of strength, and about being who you are. This talks about, you have your main characters, the family in the story, and the setting is in their mother's house and in their neighborhood. The problem in the story is that the other families might not accept, that not all the other families accept them for who they are, and then provides a clear solution at the end. Another great book for teaching story elements in your classroom. And the last book that I have is The Paperback Princess by Robert Munsch. This story is perfect for teaching story elements, and I'm going to go into a lesson, an interactive read aloud lesson that I have to go along with the book so that you can use it in your classroom right away. In this story, if you've never read it, a fiercest dragon smashes into the princess's castle, burns all of her clothes, and steals her fiancé, the prince, away. So Elizabeth takes matters into her own hands to rescue Prince Ronald. With nothing to wear except a paper bag, she outsmarts the dragon in hopes of saving the prince, but was it worth all that trouble? Your students will have to find out at the end of the story the interesting twist at the end. But to use this one in your classroom, you can create anchor charts to go along with it. I would create one that has the different story elements on it and explains what each one of these elements is. And then you can create a chart to go along with this book specifically. Who are the characters in the book? What is the setting? What's the problem and how is it solved? What are 3 main events, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story? That way they can clearly see that example from the book and will be able to retain that information a little bit better. And then while reading, you can use the discussion questions and the talking points throughout the book. I always print them out on sticky notes, stick them right in the book so that you have them there, and don't forget to ask them. I've learned that from experience, but having those sticky notes with the discussion questions on them will help you guide your students through the book, pointing out the different story elements and seeing if they can figure them out on their own as well. Then your students can take the graphic organizer for story elements back to their seats and fill it out for this book specifically. Who were the characters in the book? Where did the story take place? Then, for a fun craftivity, students can put together their own crown, princess or prince crown, and on each of the gemstones is a different one of the story elements. They'll have a lot of fun making that and won't even realize that they are learning something in reading. And lastly, I like to use the task cards with either a small group, in partners, or even as a whole class discussion to see if students can identify the different story elements in the examples that are provided. You can also use these task cards independently. Students can have them at their seats and fill in the sheet with their answers on their own. Now, I hope that you'll be able to use some of these books in your classroom to teach story elements with your students. I will leave both the resource and all of the books linked in the description box down below so that you can start using them in your classroom right away. If this video was helpful for you, make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit that red subscribe button, and stay tuned for next week where I will have a new list of picture books that you can use in your classroom right away. Have a great week.